Welcome to our weekly reading where we explore all things astrological. From our two different points of view in two different locations in the world, we bring to you a unique astrological perspective on what is happening right now across the globe. So here we go. Hi everybody, this is Diana in LA and Cary in the UK, and we're here to talk about this week's stars. Oh my goodness, what a week last week was. So much activity, so many fireworks, so much change, so much explosive energy, which we talked about. And we're coming into a new week now. Number one, you have to look at the sky today, tomorrow, for the triple conjunction that's happening with Saturn, Jupiter, and Mercury in the sky. You can see it. Three planets that will look like stars in the sky, all together in a little triangle. It's really, really beautiful. In Los Angeles, the best time to see that is about an hour, half an hour after the sun sets, while it's still twilight. When it's full dark, you won't be able to see it. It'll already have set. Depending on where you are in the world, you'll be able to see it at different times. But find out, look online, find out when you can see it, because it's really quite extraordinary, a triple conjunction, and very powerful. And of course, astrologically, has significance. Mercury is conjuncting that Saturn and Jupiter at 0 degrees and what now 2 degrees and 3 degrees Aquarius. So the communication, right? Mercury showing, exposing, talking about these new ideals, these new things that are occurring on the planet, these new things that are trying to be born at this time. It's happening. So starting with that, that's where I want to begin, because that is quite hopeful, I do believe, even though have been moving through and coming into more intensity as these weeks go on towards the inauguration in the United States. We've got more to come. This is not over yet, and there's much more to come, actually. And so on that note, Cary, what are you seeing on your side of the world?
Well, it has been an amazing week, both in the UK and in the United States. But I'd just like to start with what happened on the 6th of January, because I was very curious as to what the chart was when Vice President Pence cast his decision and eventually validated the election, which was at 1 o'clock Washington time. And what I found really interesting was that Mercury, if you did the chart for that time, Mercury was at 27 degrees Capricorn, Mercury the planet of communication, and it was conjunct the natal Pluto of the United States, which in the United States chart is opposite Mercury. So it's all about very, very intense communication. And leading up to that point, it was extremely intense because we really weren't sure what was going to happen.
And not only was Mercury conjuncting the United States Pluto chart in the US chart, it was also conjunct Pluto on the day. So it was like a double conjunction. Mercury was conjunct Pluto in the first place on that day at 1 o'clock. And it was also conjuncting the US's Pluto.
But the conjunction with the US's Pluto was exact.
Exact, right.
Pluto at this time is at 24 degrees Capricorn, opposed the Mercury of the United States chart. So this is all about very strong polarized communication. So I thought that was really interesting. The other thing I thought was interesting was Mars, and we talked a lot about Mars, and the word explosive came last week, was at 29 degrees Aries. Now 29 degrees is a special degree, and it was the last degree before it moved into Taurus. It was trining exact Donald Trump's rising sign of 29 degrees Leo. So on that day, he felt very invigorated in whatever he was doing. So it was a really pivotal day, and the charts for those incidents that happened are really quite extraordinary. And when you think of, in the background, you've got this square of Saturn and Mars, and Saturn and Uranus, you know, the polarization of Saturn and Uranus where people want to break free, this is the flavor of what's coming up.
Exactly. And what gets really interesting, because as we were looking at that day of January 6th, we of course looked on Inauguration Day. And what happens on Inauguration Day? Talk about a powder keg. Because what's happening on Inauguration Day is Uranus and Mars finally come into complete conjunction. They're exact on the day. And the moon, acting like a trigger, comes at 29 degrees Aries. Again, touching that point that Mars was at 29 degrees Aries on January 6th. So it's the same subject. It's a repeat in some way. So, wow, how can we mitigate these energies and work with these energies in a way that's healthy for us all, and as the country, United States anyway, and the world is affected by what happens in the US. So, whoa, what a day that will be. And we'll talk more about that next week as we get closer to it. But this Mars-Uranus conjunction is getting tighter and tighter and tighter as we get closer to January 20th.
What's very interesting next week is Mars squaring Saturn direct for 3 days, which is Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. So watch out for some very important news next week coming out of the United States. You know, what happened on the 6th is reverberating, and we talked about the dynamic of Uranus and how it creates upset, it creates enlightenment, things come out of nowhere. What happened on the 6th is part of that. And what's coming up now, anything that happens to aspect adversely to this Mars conjunct Uranus is going to have huge implications. So it's going to be a bit of a rocky road. The fact that the inauguration is taking place on the day when Mars and Uranus are exact in Taurus kind of says it all. So America needs to bring itself together to heal itself, but that's only going to come after lots of intense communication. And this is what it's all about, intense communication in America. You know, it's no coincidence in a way it's happening now when America is experiencing the start of its Pluto return. But where Pluto is right now in the chart of America is that it's opposite Mercury, exact. They're both 24, Mercury's 24 Cancer, Pluto's 24 Capricorn. Look at that. Really intense communication. So this is the beginning, could be the beginning of something really good, because there's some fantastic aspects going to come up in the next couple of months. But in the meantime, there's some very challenging aspects, and especially next week.
And so insurrection to resurrection, right? Because the opportunity here is a real rebirth of our country in these next couple of years, really, as Pluto actually does come conjunct to itself. And Mercury's touching it now. So what that means is it's a harbinger, right? It's telling us what's the subject of our Pluto return in the United States is the division in our country, right? And so here we are with Mercury opposing it exactly now. And then in a couple of years, Pluto will actually conjunct itself. And so this subject is the subject that our healing, our resurrection, our phoenix from the ash opportunity is in these next couple of years. And this is the beginning of it as we start to really pull apart and take it apart and look at the bones of this and what's actually under the hood of the US's wound.
And across the pond, England is being challenged by these aspects, and the United Kingdom is being challenged by these aspects, because most of the United Kingdom is under lockdown. The whole of England is under lockdown. And at the same time, the healing part is the vaccines are being sent out to everybody, so that's good. But a lot of people aren't obeying the rules of the government, the communication from the government to stay at home. So, the Iranian influence of unexpected news with Mars approaching Uranus, the government have suddenly announced that there'll be more draconian measures if need be, because we are going to be under lockdown between now and possibly the end of March. So watch out for news on the UK front, quite unexpected, but with that flavour of the Mars-Uranus conjunction, because that's affecting the world, not just the UK and the USA. So this is actually quite an unstable time, having that conjunction, depending which country you're in, depending what rules that country. But overall, for the world, it's actually a very challenging time. And as we've said before, when America sneezes, everyone else catches a cold. So what happens in America right now is really important going forward. And no matter what part of the divide you happen to be politically in the United States, it's about working together to make a better United States of America. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens going forward, but it's not going to be easy. There's a lot of discontent, there's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of miscommunication with this Pluto, transiting Pluto right now, opposed to the Mercury of the United States. So it's going to take time to bring the sides together. But while we have this Uranus-Mars conjunction in Taurus, it is going to be a very turbulent next few months.
And really for the next 2 years, because Pluto's 248-year orbit, right, only happens when something lives that long. In our own charts, we will never have a Pluto return because we don't live 250 years, right? But the US, that has been around for almost 250 years now, is coming to its Pluto return. And so that's happening now. It's beginning. And as Mercury touched that off this week, last week, and this week, we are getting a feeling and an echoing of what the conversation is about in the US. We are having a massive healing of a massive wound, of the rending of America from England in the first place, and then our own civil war in the second place, and another kind of civil war now that is philosophical, right? What we are. And this is what we're trying to heal. And I do believe all of this, all of these events that are happening, and the people that are holding the positions, like our own president and Biden, the coming president, are holding stations in a sense to allow this healing to occur so that we can actually see the wound that we're healing. And boy, are we seeing it now.
And what will bring that to visibility is next Friday and Saturday. Jupiter's squaring Uranus exact. So Jupiter, the planet of transformation, expansion, Uranus, enlightenment, disruption, unusual events associated with it. So it's quite likely next Friday and Saturday there'll be some very revealing information which will start to maybe change people's perception about what's going on at the moment. So it's a really turbulent, probably is the right word, next 7 days. Because, last week when we did the Astrocast, we used the word explosive quite a bit. Who would have thought about what happened on the 6th? Because to me, that is explosive. It doesn't get any more explosive than that when the seat of democracy is under threat. So moving on from that, you've still got that dynamic, but you've got Mars coming towards Uranus. So all you Taurians out there in the early part of Taurus need to be very aware of what's going on, because you've got Uranus conjunct your Sun, you've got Mars coming to conjunct Uranus, conjuncting your Sun. or if you've got a fast-moving planet there, it's going to be quite an amazing time, one way or the other. So as this conjunction tightens, there's going to be sporadic outbursts all over the world, which will be quite unusual. So having the Uranus-Jupiter square means that there's going to be some kind of explosive change, but it could transform things in a very good way, because Jupiter is an expansive planet. It has a very good effect when it aspects other planets. Even if it badly aspects other planets, it can have a good effect depending what the planet is. But by aspect squaring Uranus, expect some kind of revelation which will start to change people's thinking.
Right, revelation, revolution, a lot of things in the air right now. I love to bring up symbolism sometimes, and we were talking about that Mars in 29 Aries on January 6th, on the Insurrection Day, that the key character that we all visibly saw that sort of symbolized that storming of the Capitol was the man with the horns. You remember that? And that's Aries, horns, and Taurus, also horns, right? 29 degrees. That degree feels so potent, and because it was linked to Trump's 29 degrees Leo rising, that here comes this spokesperson, right? His fighter, his warrior, that is coming forward and symbolically with horns and the flag with its point as a weapon in a sense, is very symbolic of what's happening right now. He had the flag on his face, right? And so these things are in the air in this global way, but how are they in the air in your personal life too? Because it's certainly triggering people's reactions and how they feel about these subjects too, and also your own sense of freedom in your own life. You can't leave your house. Everything is being contained and constrained, and this rebirthing that is occurring now and for these next couple of years, but even and particularly right now, are occurring and affecting the whole world. And really, it's going to look different. The world is going to look different than it did before. And so the opportunity here is a healing, not a destruction. Right? It is a reconstruction and a review so that we can truly heal these wounds of the past between each other and to bridge the divide that is happening in our world. So on that note, we wish you a good week, and it will be an interesting one. And we hope that you are calm and steady inside yourself. Work with non-reactivity and responding rather than reacting as you move through this turbulent week in your own life. So we'll see you next week with another astrology report. And if you're finding these reports helpful in your life, we hope that you will share them. See you next week, everyone.
Everybody stay safe out there. Have a really good week. Take care.